Good morning, students. I hope you are all fine. It's our social studies class, and I am your teacher, Sardaut Shokat. In this class, I am going to recap chapter which we studied in the previous class, and I will also help you to solve worksheet and question answers as well. In unit number 10, which is ancient Greece, we learned about the place where the ancient Greeks lived, their trade, their gods and goddesses, their famous stories, the Olympic Games, and the city of Athens. Dear students, let's talk about where is Greece. Students, first we should know where Greece is located. Greece is a country that is located in the continent of Europe. If you look at a world map, you will see that Greece is surrounded by the sea on many sides. This means the sea almost surrounds Greece. Another interesting thing about Greece is that many mountains cover the land. Because there are so many mountains, there is not much flat land for farming. So, the ancient Greeks had to find other ways to survive and earn money. Let me ask you a question. If a place has mountains and sea, what activities do you think people might do? Yes, they might become sailors, fishermen, and traders. And that is exactly what the ancient Greeks did. Dear students, our next topic is traders and sailors. The land in Greece was not very good for growing many crops, but there was one plant that grew very well there. That plant was the olive tree. Olives were very important to the Greeks. They used olives to make olive oil, which was used in cooking and for many other purposes. The Greeks also made beautiful earthenware pots. These were clay pots used to store food, water, and oil. The Greeks sent olives, olive oil, and clay pots to other lands. In return, they received things they needed, such as wheat, corn, cloth, wood. This exchange of goods between different places is called trading. Because Greece was surrounded by the sea, the Greeks became excellent sailors. They built different types of boats and ships, such as large trading ships, small fishing boats, fast and strong warships. They used these ships to travel across the sea and trade with other countries. Because of their ships and trades, many people in other lands also liked the Greek way of life. Dear students, let us talk about now something very interesting. The ancient Greeks believed in many gods and goddesses. They built beautiful temples where they worshipped their gods. Even today, we can still see the remains of some of these temples and statues in Greece. The Greeks believed their gods and goddesses looked like humans, but they had special magical powers and could live forever. They also believed that different gods controlled different parts of nature and life. For example, Apollo was the god of the sun. The Greeks believed Apollo rode a golden chariot that pulled the sun across the sky. The Greeks also believed that their 12 main gods and goddesses lived together like a family. They believed these gods lived on the top of a very high mountain called Mount Olympus. The most powerful god among them was Zeus, who was considered the king of the gods. So, whenever the Greeks wanted help or protection, they prayed to their gods in temples. Now, dear students, let's talk about Greek myths and legends. The ancient Greeks loved to tell stories. Some of these stories were called myths and some were called legends. A myth is a story that people create to explain things that they do not understand. For example, myths explain things like why thunder happens, why lightning appears, why the seasons change. A legend, on the other hand, is a story about real people, places, or events. But sometimes storytellers add extra details to make the story more exciting. One of the most famous Greek legends is the story of the wooden horse of Troy. Now, dear students, our next topic is the wooden horse of Troy. A long time ago, there was a war between two groups of people. The first group was the Greeks and the other the Trojans. This war lasted for 10 years and neither side could win easily. Finally, the Greeks came up with a very clever idea. They built a huge wooden horse that was hollow inside. Some Greek soldiers secretly hid inside the horse. At night, the Greeks left the wooden horse outside the city walls of Troy and pretended to sail away. When the Trojans saw the horse, they thought it was a gift left by the Greeks. So they brought the wooden horse inside their city. But during the night, when everyone in Troy was sleeping, the Greek soldiers came out of the horse. They opened the city gates for the rest of the Greek army. The Greek army entered the city quietly and defeated the Trojans. This is why the story of the wooden horse of Troy became a famous legend. Dear students, our next topic is the Olympic Games. Students, another very important part of Greek culture was the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games first started more than 2700 years ago in a place called Olympia in Greece. These games were organized to honor the Greek god Zeus. People from many parts of Greece came to Olympia to take part in sports competitions. The games were held in a large stadium. Athletes competed in many sports such as running races, wrestling, boxing, horse races, throwing the javelin, throwing the discus. The winners of these competitions did not receive money or medals. Instead, they received a crown made of olive leaves, which was considered a great honor. Today, we still celebrate the modern Olympic Games every 4 years. But now, athletes from countries all over the world take part. Today, the winners receive gold, silver, and bronze medals. New sports like basketball, swimming, tennis, and gymnastics have also been added to the Olympics. Dear students, now let us talk about Athens. In ancient times, Greece was made up of many small and large cities. Each city had its own way of governing. Among these cities, Athens was the largest and most beautiful city. One very special thing about Athens was that it did not have a king or emperor. Instead, the people of Athens chose their leaders by voting. They also made their own rules and laws. The men of Athens gathered in meetings on a hill near a famous place called the Acropolis. During these meetings, they discussed and decided important matters for the city. However, in those days, women and slaves were not allowed to vote. Even though It was not perfect. This system was one of the early forms of democracy, where people help choose their leaders. Now, my dear students, we have revised the whole chapter again. Let us check how much you remember. I will help you to solve the worksheet. First, we will solve question number 1, which contains multiple choice questions. Then we will solve true and false, and finally we will identify the pictures. Students, first question is multiple choice question. Look at the question. These are multiple choice questions. Each question has three options and you must choose the correct one. First is the ancient Greeks lived in. The correct answer is Greece. The reason? In the chapter, we learned that the ancient Greeks lived in Greece and nearby lands. Therefore, the correct option is Greece. Now, second is the ancient Greeks worshipped many. Okay, the correct answer is gods. The chapter tells us that the ancient Greeks believed in many gods and goddesses and worshipped them in temples. So the correct option is gods. Now, number three, the god Dash was in charge of the sun. So the answer is Apollo. The Greeks believed that Apollo was the god of the sun and rode a golden chariot across the sky. So, students, the correct option is Apollo. Now, number 4, Trojans of the people of Dash. The correct answer is Troy, because in the legend of the wooden horse, the Trojans were the people who lived in the city of Troy. So, the correct option is Troy. Number 5, the Olympic Games were first held more than dash years ago. So the correct answer is 2700 years ago. The chapter clearly states that the Olympic Games started more than 2700 years ago in Olympia. So that is why the correct option is 2700. Now students, moving towards another question, and which is true and false. You need to decide whether the statement is true or false. Number 1, Olympic Games were held in a stadium. It's true. The chapter tells us that the games were held in a stadium where athletes competed. Number 2, the winner was given a crown made of palm trees. It's false. The winners were given a crown made of olive leaves, not palm trees. Number 3, Greece is in the continent of Asia. It's again false because Greece is located in the continent of Europe, not Asia. Now, number 4, Athens was the smallest city of Greece. It's again false because the chapter tells us that Athens was the largest city in ancient Greece. Number 5, the people of Athens chose Pericles as a leader. So it's again false because the chapter says that people voted for their leaders, but the name Pericles is not mentioned in the chapter. Now, students, question number 3, which is identify the pictures. Look at the pictures, you need to identify what they show. Picture number 1. This picture shows a large wooden horse, and the answer is the wooden horse of Troy. Explanation is Greek soldiers hid inside in this horse to trick the Trojans and enter the city of Troy. Now moving towards picture number 2. This picture shows a large mountain and the answer is Mount Olympus because the ancient Greeks believed that their gods and goddesses lived on Mount Olympus. Now, dear students, open your neat copies and solve these question answers. First question is name a god and a goddesses that the ancient Greeks worshipped. And the answer is the ancient Greeks worshipped Zeus god and Athena goddess. Question number 2. Which modern sports meeting is like the sports of ancient Greece? And the answer is the modern Olympic Games are like the sports of ancient Greece. Question number 3 is list three sports of the ancient Greeks. These sports were running, wrestling, and boxing. Question number 4. Compare the ancient Olympic Games to the modern Olympics. The ancient Olympic Games were held in Greece and winners got a crown of olive leaves. The modern Olympics are held every 4 years and winners get gold, silver, and bronze medal. Question number 5. How did the people in ancient Athens choose their leaders? The people of Athens chose their leaders by voting.